Hello Year 1, Mrs Carlisle here again. In today's lesson we're going to be creating an observational sketch of a shoe. That means looking very closely and observing all the details you can see and sketching the shoe in front of you. To complete this task you will need to collect some of the following items. A piece of paper, I've got an A3 piece of paper here but you might have a slightly smaller one, that's fine. Plain paper would work best. A shoe, possibly your school shoe, a pencil and a rubber. To start off with, you will need to place your shoe directly in front of you with the bottom of the shoe sitting down on the table. It's a slightly different angle because my camera is above. You're going to be looking at the top of my shoe whilst I'm drawing, but I will be looking at the shoe from the side. So when I create my drawing, that's the part that I'm going to be drawing. So to begin with, I'm just going to try and plan to make sure that my drawing is going to fill my page. Now, hopefully all of you have heard of dot to dots. So can you see already I've just made a few little markers, a few little dots and dashes on my piece of paper just to show where my drawing is going to sit on my page. And I've started trying to measure out to check to see how big my drawing is going to be. So I've made a quick measurement and I've measured the height of the heel of my shoe, and I've worked out that that measurement fits into the length or the width of my shoe about 2.5 times. So I'm just checking my markers and checking my dots on my page to roughly work out that the side markers, the two dots that I'm just working between now and I'm joining on my dot to dots to begin with, that they will fit twice, 2.5 times across the width of my page. So now I've got those markers roughly in the right place, I can start to trace the line that I'm going to have a go at drawing on my page. Can you see my finger running along the outside edge of my shoe? And that's the first line that I'm going to try and now draw with my pencil. So as you can see, I'm tracing it around, and as the toes start to raise up off the paper, I'm going to make my line raise up, and the toe then shape starts to curve round, and I'm all the time looking to see if I can find that next dot to dot mark on my page I did right at the beginning to see if I can head my pencil in that direction. So whilst I'm always trying to look to see which direction my pencil's going in, then I need to keep looking at my shoe to be checking to see the shape of the line that I'm going to be drawing. So now I've drawn the main outline of my shoe. What I'm going to start to do is to add in some of the big details, some of the bigger shapes that I can see on my shoe. And there's a little bit of a shiny part to the back of the heel on this shoe. So I'm just trying to carefully work out how big that needs to be and to add it in and look roughly where it starts. And now I'm just looking at the sole of the shoe and I'm trying to just make sure that the different parts of the shoe all join, where the line is starting and where the line is ending, and trying to join up those sort of dot to dots. You can see here I'm just tracing around to see the curve, which is the sort of soft part of the leather that sits across the toes. There is an opening, there's a hole inside the shoe. That hole is for your foot to go in, so I've got to make sure that I draw that hole. Now sitting across the hole, I've noticed that the strap, the Velcro strap, sits right across the middle of my shoe. So that means that strap I've got to draw in first before I can carry on drawing the rest of my hole, because that strap sits on top of the hole. So in my drawing, it's going to be on the top as well. So at the moment, I'm just working out roughly where the strap would start, and then I'm trying to join up those lines, looking closely, looking up and down at the real shoe as I'm making those marks. Now the marks that I'm making on my page are quite light at this stage. As you watch the rest of the video, you'll start to see I will darken in the lines when I'm happy with them, because at the moment I might want to move them around a little bit. I might not be very happy, so I just want them to be quite faint to begin with, and then when I'm a little bit happier later on, I will press down a bit harder. I'll put some more pressure. Here we are. Here I'm just adapting and changing a little bit of my sketch so I can go back over with that new line a little bit darker a bit later on. I'm just now trying to put in the sole of the shoe, so the inside bit, the part that you can see that's spotty from looking at it above. I can see from the angle that I'm looking at it, half of the inside of the shoe is spotty, which is the bottom bit, and then I can see half of the inside edge of the shoe. So that's why that line was running through. Once you've put most of those main details on, I'm just trying to work in that rubber bumper part that goes around the toes now. I can start to think about things like some of the smaller details. So you might see some of the details perhaps on the rubber sole underneath your shoe. There might be some things like the stitching marks. Perhaps you've got some stitching details. These would be all the little things that I would call the finer details. Here I am just adding some extra finer detail into the sole of the shoe and just looking at where some of those different marks are to try and make it look as close as I can, sort of to a photograph really. Any of those little details you can spot. I'm going to start adding in some little stitching design. Now here I'm just going to count how many little points I need to be working in, and I'm going to, again, a bit like a dot to dot we did at the beginning, I'm just putting some little markers in, so as I'm doing my stitching design, I know where my pencil is starting, I know which direction it's heading in, and then I just have to concentrate on the shape of the line that I'm making. And I'm going to go back and add the sort of little heart design that I can see that's on the toe area of my shoe, and some extra little dots, just trying to add those details in. I'm playing spot the difference all of the time, so each time I look up at my real shoe and I look down at my drawing, if there's any bits that I can see on the shoe that I haven't included in my drawing, then I'm going to go back and add them in. That was a little silver bit that the Velcro has to go through for the strap, and the underneath part that the strap sits onto, the furry part of the Velcro. Now this is where I'm really adding some of those fine details, like the little row of stitching going across the top of the strap and all the way back up again. I'm doing a little dashed lines because I want to try and make it look like the real stitching. If you look closely at some stitching on your shoe, perhaps you might just see that the thread's there and then it disappears, and then it appears and then it disappears. That's because the needle that would have sewn it would have pushed that thread underneath and then it would have come back up again. So I'm trying to create that effect by doing a dashed pattern with my pencil. And all across my drawing now, anywhere else I can see that fine detail, I'm just going back and adding that in across the other areas that I can spot it. So around the heel area, and from that piece of leather, the joining the back piece to the front piece, and then on the inside of my shoe as well. So where you can see the dots, from where I'm sitting and the angle I'm looking at it, only half of that area inside is the dotty area, because the other half sort of to the top of it is actually black. That's the inside of the shoe. So when you're looking at your shoe, you might be able to see part of the sole. This is where I talked about earlier, where I said when I'm happy with my lines, you can go back now with a little bit more pressure and just push with your pencil just a little bit harder, just to try and sharpen up and define and choose the lines that you're happy with. So if you were working earlier and there are a couple of lines that you didn't really like, don't worry. Now's the time that you can just push down a little bit harder on the ones that you do like, and naturally those other ones will just start to blend away. They'll just start to disappear. It's a bit like magic, really. I haven't really used my rubber. You might feel happier doing that, but as long as you work in a style where you're pressing really faintly to begin with, you probably, hopefully, won't need that rubber, because this stage now will help your main lines that you do want to keep really stand out and pop out from your page. So just work across the whole of the drawing now and just keep focusing on the lines that you do want to keep, and just sharpen those up, darken them up, make them stand out on your page just that little bit clearer. And just go over the whole sketch now. So I'm going to just see if there's any other details that I've missed. I try to make the front part of the rubbery section just a little bit of dimple to give it an extra bit of texture as it has in real life. And I'm just going across the whole of the drawing just to add in some of those extra. That's it, I'm just correcting that little part. It's a sketch. It doesn't have to be a perfect drawing, but just enough details to try and make your sketch look as much like the original object in front of you as you can. This is a tricky job. Have a try, and good luck. Here is my finished sketch of my shoe. Now, this is quite a challenging job if it's something that you haven't really thought about trying to do before. So the things that I'd like you to try and concentrate on remembering to do, the handy tips that I can give you, are at the beginning of your sketch. Try to remember to put some dots and be thinking about doing your dot to dots at the beginning. That should help you plan that your drawing is going to fill the size of the paper that you have got. Second of all, then just be thinking about the shape in which those lines, the shape that those lines are making whilst you're joining those dot to dots. Think about adding your main detail, then think about adding your finer detail, and remember to begin with, just be working with a really faint line to begin with, and then when you're happy, you can go back and darken in the lines that you want to keep, and then those ones that you did at the beginning will start to fade away. Don't worry about rubbing them out, just try and darken the ones that you want to keep. Good luck.